Good morning, Anthony Franco.
Good morning,
how
Chris.
are you this morning?
You know how I am. I've had our poor guest, Andy. I had her in 6 different places on 2 different time zones, and she barely made it. This clip matters.
Oh, yeah. It's your professionalism that I respect.
I mean, we're crushing it.
We're crushing it today.
Crushing the professionalism. Yeah, Anthony, in 1960, one of my favorite founders, entrepreneurs of all time, Estee Lauder, famously handed out samples of her products to curious shoppers in department stores. Her relentless curiosity about customer preferences turned her modest brand into a global empire. Today, that same entrepreneurial curiosity is the key to unlocking innovation, opportunity. Today, we have far and away the most interesting guest. And I'm going to say the looks of the show are going to go up like a half point today, Anthony.
Chris makes that joke every time we have a guest on, Andy.
Well,
but this time he's actually right. Yeah.
It's actually true. Today, we're welcoming Andy Paige, powerhouse of style. She's Pearl on General Hospital, the brains behind the international patented Girly Go Garter. I just heard this story. I can't wait to tell it to you guys. And an award-winning style expert known for proving you don't need to have $1 million to look like $1 million. Is I think what we're trying to say. Yeah, you don't have to spend $1 million to look like $1 million.
Yeah. You don't have to spend a fortune to look $1 million.
Look like $1 million. Okay, there you go. And she's hosted Dating Lab podcast. She's done all kinds of incredible stuff, but also has an incredible founder journey as well. Andy, welcome. Thank you for bearing with our amazing amounts of professionthing to be able to get you
welcome.
here today.
I'm happy to be with you. We did it. We made it together.
We're here.
We hustled through. Yep.
Anthony, it is pretty good. So curiosity. That's what we're talking about today. Clearly, you demonstrate curiosity in just about everything you do, including you're asking yourself, I'm curious why I'm doing this with these guys. But other than that, why does curiosity matter so much to founders and entrepreneurs? How's curiosity shown up in your life?
Well, to be perfectly frank, I think curiosity keeps you young. I'm someone who is determined to live to be 100. And the way that you stay engaged and relevant, and the way that you are constantly growing and evolving and don't stay stagnant and stuck, is to remain curious. So curiosity is a huge part of my life. It drives me. And I walk with a huge faith. I'm very faith-based. And I also believe that curiosity allows you to listen. So the more curious you are and the more questions you ask, the easier it is to guide you to the right path and down the right path and to the right people in the right situations. So I think remaining curious keeps you young. I think it definitely it keeps you thriving in business because you're always growing and improving. But most importantly, I think that it kind of keeps you walking in the right direction.
I think that's a beautiful way to open it. So I want to start just by talking about your backstory. Tell us, because we just covered, I think, probably a third of your backstory. It's wildly fascinating. But start with high school, because you just told a little bit of an incredible story off air. Start there, and then tell us what has arrived where you are today, which is, I think what do you have, 60 jobs, maybe 70 jobs currently?
I stay busy. I'm not going to tell you. Let's see, if I were to count, it'd be hard because I have a lot of jobs around the house as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. I have a lot of jobs too. Picking up my son's socks was not actually one. I don't get paid for that job.
Well, it's a good point. But yeah, so I'm very, very fortunate that my grandmother would tell you that it was her collard greens that saw me 5'11" by the time I was 10 years old. So because I was a very tall young girl in the South, you can imagine, I was encouraged to move into modeling and to to do some things with, the blessings that God had given me. So at the age of 17, I dropped out of high school and I moved to New York. I was kind of ready. High school was boring to me. And so I got my GED. I moved to New York. I moved into the models home, and I don't know if they still do them actually, but in the 80s they did. So I moved to New York in 1987. I'm 54, and it was a shock, as you can imagine. But I knew really early on that I needed to get an education, that I couldn't be, this barefoot idiot from Alabama for the rest of my life who, was just tall. So
being tall is nice, but yeah, probably not. Yeah,
it is. Being tall and skinny is a thing. But I got my education. With the help of my agent, I got my GED. I got into college. I have a double master's in media studies and broadcast journalism. And New York has been my home for a really, really long time. I'm very fortunate that it watered me and let me grow, and that I have the amazing, God-based foundation that my grandparents gave me in Alabama. My grandparents raised me. I call them my mama and my papa. And they really instilled a lot of amazing life skills. I know how to plumb. I know how to roof. I can, wire anything. I can fix your speakers. So I have some real skills. And then I have the amazing skills that being the hard knocks of New York also brought to me.
So you were doing the modeling thing for a while. Things were going well for you in your career. You obviously double master's degree. You're studying hard at night. Talk to me about these next few steps. You spent a ton of time, you said, in front of the camera, and then suddenly you're arriving at this crazy entrepreneurial journey. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I am really fortunate because out of school, I thought I was going to be a sportscaster, actually. I studied to be a sportscaster. It was my goal, growing up in Alabama football. Back then, we loved the Dallas Cowboys. Man. Yeah, we loved the Dallas Cowboys and Staubach and all of that. So I was raised with that. And I thought I was going to be a sportscaster. And then I got out of school and no one would give me a job. Well, that's not true. I had one small ABC affiliate in Odessa, Texas, who was interested in giving me a little less than $18,000 a year to come and cover Friday.
And you're probably making
that's good pay for an entry level news job.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah,
Odessa,
you're right.
Texas,
Right.
that would actually probably make you.
So I was like, and I almost did that gig, but I had the opportunity. My agent was like, I saw this thing on TV last night. I know it's crazy, but there was an open casting call for a show called Starting Over. And so that show led me to being a beauty and style expert on that show. And then I became a beauty and style expert on 10 Years Younger. And I had my own show called, Sense of Style. And I contributed to lots of makeover television in the early 2000s, like hundreds of episodes, which was wonderful. And I was, it was 2009, and I was about 5 days away from going to film the next season of my show. And I actually made the mistake of kind of cliff diving, if you will. It was like this huge rock in the middle of the ocean that everyone enjoyed jumping off. And I stood in line, swam out 100 yards, stood in line on the back of this huge rock to jump off, and I just jumped off wrong. And so when I jumped off wrong, it severed my right foot. And I it was pretty dramatic. I did not know how this happened. I mean, I do know how it happened, but I was shocked beyond measure. It took me a while to realize how my life was about to change. And, in the interim of doing reality television, I started reality television at a time when there were no unions. And so we were wearing mic packs for 16 to 18 hours a day sometimes. I mean, just constantly being filmed. And the mic pack, they would always put it on my bra. And I started to get water blisters from wearing it after a couple of weeks. So I would ask if there was a thigh pack or anything that I could do to hold these transmitters. Because as you know, in television, you wear an IFB, which is a way for you to communicate with the producers. And then you also have to wear a microphone. So you're wearing two transmitters. And, everything that they gave me basically fell off. It never worked right. Or I was stuck with it, wearing it in a very uncomfortable spot. So I had invented, a place to put my mic pack by stringing together a couple of cut up bras for some hooks and eyes, and an old workout shirt for, to make it wicking and to absorb moisture, and a hot glue gun. And so from the hospital bed, I know I'm jumping all over, but from the hospital bed, after I had my accident, I was having a battle royale in like a morphine haze with God about how this happened, how I got here. And I just got real quiet, and it came to me really hard that I was supposed to bring this product, which is now called the Girly Go Garter, to life. And within 10 days of my accident and my first 3 surgeries to try to reattach my foot, I stopped taking any sort of medicine that would make me drowsy, and I just started working on the Girly Go Garter from my hospital bed because I didn't know if I was going to walk again. I didn't think I'd ever be in front of the camera again. I wasn't sure, but I was very clear that God had given me this message that this is what I was supposed to do next. So I was happy to have a refocus. I wasn't wallowing in my pity. I wasn't wallowing in what was going to happen next. I was really focused on how I was going to raise money, how I was going to build a business plan, how I was going to get patents, where I was going to have it made. And so I had this new focus that really kind of saved my life in many ways. And I birthed the Girly Go Garter.
That's pretty amazing. So you started a company. First of all, let's not leave this on, the metaphorical, I shouldn't say cliffhanger. That would be bad if you jumped to that. Tell me about, how did you recover? Are you able to, walk and get around and all that sort of stuff now? That's incredible.
Yes, I am like a true walking miracle. I have had 7 surgeries. I have had all kinds of metal taken in, taken out, everything you can imagine to reattach my foot effectively and have me walk effectively. And yes, I walk quite effectively. Most people now would never even know. I've done all kinds of scar therapy, and most people would never even know. I don't wear heels anymore. So that's the one thing.
You're also 5'11" already. You don't need to be, you can wear flats and still be taller than most people.
Well, that's true. But, as you can imagine, coming from the style world, I mean, heels definitely, make you feel powerful. So I don't wear a lot of heels, but I still get around very, very well. And most people, if you were just to meet me, you would never dream in a million years.
It's such a remarkable story, and it's such an incredibly inspiring story. One more just completely random question before we dive into more of the entrepreneurial journey. All these incredible opportunities to work with people, do makeovers, change their life. What's one story that sticks with you that helps get you motivated when, being an entrepreneur is hard, right? Being a founder is hard. So what is something from that part of your life that really keeps you going?
Well, the makeover journeys, I definitely believe that change in your life can come in one of 2 ways. You can change the inside and then you need to change the outside, or you can change the outside and it gives you the courage to change the inside. So being someone who helped people, kind of make over their image in television, a lot of times that was considered, a little passé or not really important. But the truth is, changing what I've discovered and what I continue to believe is that by changing the outside, by shaking up, by, getting a new haircut, by changing your cosmetic routine, up leveling in some way, it gives you the courage to make other changes. And then the reverse happens too. If you've really started to work on the inside and you want to be perceived in a different way and you want to make big changes in your life, oftentimes you'll work so hard on the inside and your thoughts and, your psyche. But the truth is, to really make that impact, you need to change the outside. Because the minute that you change the outside, you put everyone on alert that they can expect things differently and that you can act in a different way and it will somehow be okay. So I definitely believe that outward change is really important for inward change. And so I saw that week after week after week.
You know why I'm bald, Anthony, is because my brain just grew so much it pushed all my hair follicles out.
I love that. Yeah. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, that's why I'm bald. Yeah, it's true. That's not true.
Well, there's still lots of things you can do. You've got a beard. You've got clothes. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do for the outside.
I mean, I'm a walking style. You and I, Andy, we're walking style icons. Now, Anthony,
I love Anthony's
You're bald because your hair was scared of what you were thinking and jumped out.
It's a fair point.
All
right,
I
let's
try,
actually
though.
do love your glasses, Anthony. Are very stylish. I think they're fantastic.
Oh,
And-
thank you.
But here's the guys. Can you tell me an animal that walks the planet that does not have some visual cue that they're attracted to for mating?
No, and
My wife.
Yeah.
My wife looks at me and says, "I have no idea why I'm with this
No.
guy."
Right.
No, think about peacocks, lions, fish. It doesn't matter. Every animal that walks the planet is naturally attracted to something, and the opposite does something to get their attention. Whether it's the lion's mane, or it doesn't matter. We are all natural visual creatures, and so
My wife changed my entire perspective on fashion and style, and it was one sentence, which was, hey, when people dress a particular way, they feel more confident. And when they feel more confident, they can shine in whatever environment they show up in. I was like, well, now I care about style. After that one sentence, I was like, wow, that's really great perspective on that.
It is very
So
true.
I want to talk about curiosity, and I want to talk about how it shows up in your life. So you went from obviously incredible success as a model, incredible success now then in reality TV. But today you are running at least one product, right? And you're also working on QVC. All those things just showed up probably because you were curious. Like those things just didn't land in your lap, right? You ended up having to ask questions of yourself and the environment. Talk about your process of being curious about the opportunities that were in front of you.
Well, I'll tell you, my biggest curiosity that I live by is how can I make things better? And that one curiosity and question that I asked both of myself and everyone around me all the time is why I'm in this position. And I'll explain. So the reason that I am Pearl on General Hospital is because, 20 something years ago, when I was working in television, I have had the incredible benefit of working with 50, 60, maybe even 100 producers at this point. And I would fathom to believe that the majority of those producers remember me as someone who shows up on time, who is always prepared, who gives her best, looks her best, really tries really hard to make every situation better. And that means if you need me to sweep the floor or dust the camera or hang a light or, take something out to the car or go pick up coffee, Andy Paige is going to do that. Because I am just here to help. How can I help? How can I help? I'm always curious about all of that. And so the reason that I am Pearl is because a couple of those producers who have now gone on and now are working on General Hospital knew that there was this role of a home shopping host that was becoming available. And they saw on LinkedIn that this is what I was doing now on QVC. And they remembered that they could depend on me to do this and that they needed someone, to carry this role. And they reached out. And the same is true for how I got to QVC. So QVC, I had done QVC years ago as a model, but during COVID, everything changed and they needed someone who could do their own makeup, who was willing to learn how to do their own lights, who was willing to do their own camera work from home. And I was approached and like, we remember that, you could do all these things. Do you think that you could, set up a little mini studio for yourself, considering the circumstances, and help us? And I was like, yes, I can do that.
I can figure that out. Right. Yeah.
That's right. So, me being curious about how can I make things better for you? How can I make this situation better? How can I improve on a daily basis is how I continue to have all these opportunities.
Anthony,
This is a really interesting spin on curiosity, Chris, because Andy, what you're talking about really is this. I mean, the title of this episode, we could switch just on that statement alone is servant leadership. And I really love your position, your point of view is this you're turning curiosity into how can I help? And I love that. But I do want to take it back to the notion of just being curious about learning about the world. And I'm struggling with this topic quite frankly, because curiosity is one of those things. I don't know if you can teach it or learn it. I'd love your perspective on this, because I'm struggling with, is that something you're just born with, or is that something that you can discover in yourself over time?
I do think that you can discover it over time. And I also think that the minute that you think you know everything, you have just aged yourself, and you might as well, start digging your hole, because that is not what life's about. So I do think that you can recognize that, if you come to any situation thinking that you know everything, then you're at a disadvantage. So if you approach every situation with, okay, what's going on, and what am I missing, and what can I learn here, and how can I make this better, then you will naturally be someone who improves the situation. But you also have the opportunity to learn a lot about your family, or learn a lot about technology, or learn a lot about whatever's going on. So I do think that you can build the muscle of curiosity, if you will. And I think that it's important for us not to let that atrophy as we get older.
So you have to treat it like a skill, like everything else.
I mean, I think so. Don't get me wrong. I was always curious because, I come from a very small town in Alabama, and all you had to do was pick up, a Vogue magazine and realize there's a really big world out there that, or watch television and recognize that, I'm missing a lot. So I was always curious because I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to meet new people, and I wanted to experience the things that, I was seeing through a lens or through media. So it's true, I did have that innately, but I know a lot of people who lose that and are just like, I'm fine where I am, and no, I don't want, but I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person who, is up to date with AI, and who has the latest phone, and who is always willing to learn and try,
I'm gonna throw a stat at you guys and reflect on this, because what's interesting is what you're saying, Andy, is that there's almost an element of ambition with curiosity, but it's not ambition to be successful. It's just an ambition to know and to learn. And particularly for those of us, and we're all roughly the same age, that we had to read I grew up in Texas, Andy. We had the encyclopedia on the shelf, and anytime I had a question my parents couldn't answer, they said, go to the encyclopedia. And I'd have to sit there and thumb through to find the answer, and I couldn't even spell it half the time. And now we live in this time. So here's the stat I want to throw at you. 65% of entrepreneurs say curiosity helped them identify and seize their bigger or biggest opportunities. It seems to me, Andy, that in your life, that curiosity did allow you. So obviously you showed up and you're amazing, and you were nice and kind to these people. And so that, kept the door open in a world where I'm sure several people closed it. But it was more of just wanting to learn about how to set up your own studio and being willing to figure it out, things like that. And then, Anthony, I want you to reflect on that and say, from our experience as entrepreneurs and founders, does that resonate with you as well? So, Andy, start us off.
For me personally, yeah, I do think that curiosity has it plays a huge role in any sort of entrepreneurship, because really what all entrepreneurs are solving a problem. So you have to identify the problem, right? There's not a product that we have that's not solving something. So yes, curiosity helps you solve, and that's really what business is about.
All successful founders, Andy, because I've built products that solved exactly zero problems, and I got exactly zero customers too, which was great. But, Anthony, how does that show up in your experience? What Andy was saying, working with founders.
It's almost like curiosity is. I think Andy said it perfectly. It's like once you lose that curiosity, you're kind of done. And curiosity not just is incredibly important to entrepreneurship, but just to longevity. How many people do you know that they've lost their purpose in life, right? Or they've retired, and now they have no reason to go out and be curious on something, and then this perfectly healthy person deteriorates very rapidly. So curiosity is incredibly important. I'm still struggling though. Like I'm struggling with talking about how to practice curiosity daily. Like how do you you said it, build that muscle daily? Is it some people, it's like, how do you be curious about something you're not interested in? And how do you flip that?
Well, I suppose this is really also my journalistic background, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I was trained as a journalist, and when you approach anything, you have to ask the questions: what, why, when, what, how. You have to ask all the questions. So everything that you approach as a journalist, you're looking to gather the information and the data so that you can explain it to people. And you do the same thing actually on QVC, interestingly enough, right? You are explaining things. So I do have that explaining kind of muscle, if you will, or that ability that I have honed in on, and it has been a part of how I make a living. So I have built that through my education, but on a daily basis, I listen a lot and I ask a lot of questions. So my husband just bought a new truck. He took in his old truck and wanted a new truck. Okay, so I'm like, oh well, what was wrong with the old truck? So it's just, and why is this one better? And, so it's just a matter of asking and learning and realizing and looking and just being a little more aware, and not going through life with, kind of like your horse blinders, where you're just tunnel vision. I mean, of course, tunnel vision can be really good, but at the same time, you always need to stop and kind of look around and notice what's going on in cars, what's happening in life, how are people looking? Are people walking around with a smile? I notice that when I'm out and about. I naturally gravitate and look people in the eye. I smile at them. I do my best to read the room all the time, and that's one of the ways that I'm constantly being curious.
So I think that's on it. I think that you kind of nailed on something. It's the most important question when you're practicing curiosity. It also can be a very dangerous question, and that's why. Just simply why. It also can come across rude. I've pissed people off just by asking, why are we doing this? So you have to practice kindness when you're asking that question. But I think that's a really important, just ask why with genuine curiosity, because you want to understand what the motivation is behind something. I think it's really a powerful question.
So this is going to get into maybe slightly deeper territory, which is, there are people that you and I grew up with, Andy, that had every bit of access to the information that you and I did, and never took off the horse blinders, so to speak. Never was able to do that. And I have a hypothesis I'm going to throw at you, and I want you to react. I think some of that has to do with fear. I think sometimes it's scary, and I think it's easier to narrow your focus and only listen to what you want to hear, and confirmation bias type stuff, whether it's politics, religion, whether it's your work. This is the right way to do work, and anything new is scary. How do you filter that? Because there is this sense that there's a flood of information coming up. A lot of it's BS. It's not real. But yet there's so much cool stuff out there to learn as well. How do you approach this concept of, I need to take the blinders off, but I also need to be able to take in the right information and ignore the BS?
This is a very simple answer for me, and that's I localize it. So I stopped watching the national news about 5 or 6 years ago. I do not consume, national news on a nightly basis. And the truth is, I really don't consume local news either. And that does not mean that I'm not curious. It simply means that I am gathering my information in new ways. And because I don't watch the news, I love that it gives me an opening line with anybody, because I can naturally say, I stopped watching the news. It was just really hard on me. What's affecting your life right now? Or what do I need to know? Or tell me what I'm missing. And it is the best icebreaker at parties. People completely understand why I stopped watching the news. I mean, they get it. So the more that I can kind of localize, like I might not be able to affect what's happening in, the Ukraine, but I can affect what's happening at my neighbor's house. So I'm going to check in with my neighbor, make sure that they're okay, they're elderly. Do they need anything? I'm heading to the grocery store. So what I do is it's not blinders, but I just allow my world to really revolve around engagement on a local level and what can I actually support, change, affect. And if I can support, change, and affect it, then I'm all in. But if I can't, then I'm not quite sure that it's worth my brain real estate.
Anthony, to me, I think this is a perfect analogy to founders, because founders sit there and you look at a world full of problems and we say, hey, look at the most important problems to solve. The challenge is that if you pay attention to every problem, you will never focus on a problem to solve, and you'll never start a company because you'll constantly be overly curious. How does that resonate with you as far as the founder's journey?
Yeah, I think Andy said it great, and that is, it's not just what problems need solving, but what problems can I best solve. So where am I best suited to actually lean in and be and have an impact? I find it really. You can identify a lack of curiosity by founders who are highly protective of their idea, because they believe that one idea that's the idea itself is the golden egg, when in reality it's when you have a founder that is traditional venture founders don't have a lack of ideas, they have a lack of focus.
And time, right?
And focus and time. So, and those are the ones that are curious. Those are the ones that can be dangerous, and because they have such an insatiable appetite and curiosity for solving problems. And the ones that are really successful are the ones that are like, all right, I can solve this problem uniquely, so I'm going to chase that one directly.
Andy, it's a perfect setup for you because you have your hands in so many different things. How do you balance? And so let's assume now that we know that that curiosity is a muscle, that we can exercise it. There are tools for us to filter out the noise and get to the signal. But in your life, how do you filter this sense of curiosity and wanting to know about everything, but yet staying disciplined on the stuff on your projects, the things that you care most deeply about? There's a constant give and take there. And I think it can be a challenge for a lot of people.
Most definitely, but I'm really not kidding by eliminating the news. I know that sounds
I know
crazy.
I do the same thing. I was smiling because
Yeah.
it's so great, because it turns out if you need to know something, people will tell you.
Yeah.
It
is very true. As a matter of fact, so I have my all call for all of my support team, my employees, like everybody, on Wednesdays. And the last 15 minutes of the all call is literally, okay, everyone, tell me, what have you seen this week that we need to know that would affect our business or that we need to be doing? And that last 15 minutes is probably the best 15 minutes of the entire call and of our entire week. We all are ready for it. There's something that we've seen, there's something that we've noticed. So if you stop, I know this is crazy, but if you stop being fed the news and what's going on, and you start to look for what's going on and like asking people questions, it's much easier to filter. So I stopped being someone who was fed the news, and I became someone who sought out the news.
I want to ask the contrarian point of view, though. So you've probably been on shows or seen shows in the past where the format got old and tired. And so the producers or whoever runs the show, like they just were like, no, we have to repeat this thing. And it happens in startups all the time, which is you need to pivot, you need to adjust, you need to go find a different market, et cetera. But you didn't because they're scared that the success has been there. It shows up as a lack of curiosity. And then how does that feel or look in the world that you've come from?
Well, I can tell you that when you talk in those terms, the number one example of that I can come up with is Sears and Roebuck.
Right, yeah.
I mean, which is probably a name that many people don't even know anymore. I mean, in the beginning, there was nothing bigger. I mean, Sears was like the Amazon.
I was going to say
day.
it was Amazon, right? It was
yeah, you could buy a house that would be delivered in boxes, and
right.
from the Sears and Roebuck catalog.
Yeah, you're dead right.
Everything. But Sears refused to take on, anything, any new thoughts. They believed that this was their customer, that this is how it was supposed to do. This was retail for them. And so it started with the catalog, and they built stores, but they never really they entered the internet way too late. They didn't listen to customers. So anyway, you get it. And I can give you another one, and that would be the Vanderbilts. The Vanderbilts had it made with the train and with the steam engine, right? So they had the steam engine and they had shipping, but they didn't listen to airplanes. They didn't get involved in airplanes. And the Vanderbilts, don't get me wrong, we still talk about the Vanderbilt wealth, but they didn't listen and modernize and change and evolve and get on board with what else was happening in their particular umbrella. So there are lots of examples of that, and I don't want to be one of those. That's two big ones, like that have basically gone down. We're huge that have gone down, and I don't want to be that. So even though the product that I invented is really straightforward, and you think, okay, well, you've solved this problem for carrying a mic pack. But I have also patented for medical devices. So we are the number one, medical device carriage for all of those people who are insulin dependent or have to wear, a catheter or anything like that. I made sure that it was strong enough so that it could carry a small weapon. So if it's under 3 pounds, there's a pocket for your weapon. So, and I'm constantly trying, okay, well, what else can this thing do? What else can it carry? What other, niche can I appeal to? So you might have a product and you think, okay, well, I invented it as a mic pack holder. Well, that's great. That's television and film. But what else is there? Like, there are brides who can't lug a purse down the aisle. There are millions of prom goers who are now told they can't bring a purse to prom.
Right.
Graduation, you're told you can't bring a handbag. I mean, there are stadiums now that don't let you bring a purse inside. So you want to constantly be aware of, even if you have
a little whiskey flask, if you want to sneak something into a into a CU
game. It has
game.
Been done.
It has been done. I know they don't drink at Alabama games though, Andy. So.
Oh, never.
Yeah, totally.
But so you get my point. Like in my mind, I was like, well, I invented this for this purpose. But the truth is, you open your eyes and you're like, oh, okay, well, there's lots of applications here, and so then you continue to run with each one of those.
Anthony, I want you to react to that too, because in just the core question, balancing curiosity with the world of focus of execution. It is a constant challenge for people that are early stage founders. As you scale up, as you get bigger, how do you balance that?
You can't. Your job as the founder is to be essentially as your company grows, your job is to be the person that people are like pulling back. Like if you're the visionary type founder, your curiosity should keep your team on their toes all the time. I don't think balance and curiosity is ever appropriate. I do think that you need to not be so obstinate that you feel like everything that you want to explore, you need to explore. But I think that you can't temper your curiosity. It leads to all the bad things that happen. The Sears Roebuck, they become business case studies, right? Kodak, Sears, Blockbuster, everybody that has lost their curiosity and they're at the top winds up being the stereotypical, they've lost their ability to innovate. You can't lose it. Be unbalanced is what I'm saying.
It was also a beautiful way we opened the show, Anthony, which was Estee Lauder was, truly one of my favorite founders ever, was wildly curious about people, Andy. And she would show up at the opening of every podunk drugstore, not even department stores in Podunk, Texas, and meet the people it was famously in San Antonio. She didn't speak Spanish and somebody came in and was trying to buy cosmetics and she found somebody to translate for her. and she ended up building a product for Latinas, and it was like $1 billion product for Estee Lauder. It's incredible. So I want to get, finish this line of question up, and we'll go to speed round. What else do you do in your life? You say cultivating curiosity, filtering news is one of them, having people around you that can bring you great new ideas. How else do you build that muscle? What is your curiosity workout, so to speak?
Yeah, so I encourage everyone around me to do the same thing. So, Anthony brings up a really good point. Like, as the head, I should be.
I got to
the
write
one
it
that's
down. What was it? What was the point I made? Today's the day, Chris. I did it.
First,
Sorry,
Anthony.
As the head of a company, I am the one that should be the most curious, and I should be the one inspiring curiosity in all of them. Like, don't come to my Wednesday meeting unless you've got an answer to what are you seeing? What's different? What have you experienced this week? Tell me something new. So, and I do the same thing with my girls. I'm very fortunate that I have 3 bonus children that I cherish with every breath I take. And so I do the same thing with them. Who are you loving? Who are you hating? Who do you wish would go to another planet? Like, what are you experiencing? And, I do weekly radio, and I'm always talking about new things on radio. And my 3 girls are always sending me new things because they're looking out for me. And they're like,
That's
oh,
cool.
have you seen this? So the other way that I build my own curiosity muscles is I inspire curiosity in others by always, letting them know that I want to know.
And challenging the people you love too, to be like, hey, I need you to be curious to help me.
Yeah.
But in so doing, you're being inspirational on that piece as well. All right, Anthony, anything to add? Muscle of curiosity. How do you flex it? I feel like it's one of those things where in a lot of us, it's something we need to tampen, but I do love this idea of just continually trying to inspire people.
Yeah, I'm just going to be repetitive here. So let's jump into the speed round, Chris.
All right, sounds like a plan. Are you ready, Andy? Meaning of life,
Yes,
go.
sir.
I'm just kidding. Here we go. So I just want to get just real quick reactions on this stuff. And in your experience, give me kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, just real quick response to each one. Curiosity versus experience. Which should founders prioritize hiring?
I would think curiosity.
I like it. Explore versus exploit. Should companies spend more time and more resources innovating or optimizing?
Probably optimizing.
Learning versus selling. Should entrepreneurs dedicate more time to personal growth or immediate revenue?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. I struggle with that one too. It's like, I got the first 2. This one.
I'm going to say learning.
I like it. Iterate versus reinvent. When launching new products, is it better to do incremental, innovation, or just completely come out with something new?
Incremental.
Market approach, niche versus broad. Should that guide you to very small niche markets or huge, big, broad markets?
Niche, for sure. That's where everything's going.
I love it. Anthony, what are our bumper stickers from today? Incredible conversation. Anthony,
This is a great conversation.
Thank you so much for the time. This has been incredible. What are you taking away from this, Anthony?
I've got 6 written down with some bonuses. So curiosity is the engine of entrepreneurial growth. That's my first bumper sticker. I also wrote down innovator's dilemma correlates directly with the atrophy of curiosity. Stay curious to stay relevant. Curiosity isn't a trait, it's a practice, and inspire others' curiosity. A great way to practice it is to inspire others' curiosity on things. It's very simple bumper sticker, ask why constantly. And then the thing that I love most that Andy said is genuinely ask, how can I help? It's a great curiosity question that also has this underpinning of servant leadership. So I love that. Where can we find out more, Chris?
So deep dive recommendations, A Curious Mind by Brian Grazer, Innovator's DNA by Jeff Dyer, 2 really good books. Atomic Habits, that's about, like you said, Andy, developing those muscles and developing the skills. Any habits around that? Originals by Adam Grant. And There's an article by the Harvard Business Review. The Case for Curiosity is a terrific one. Andy, what else? What do you, from your stuff, what do you listen to? What do you read that drives your curiosity?
Yeah, honestly, it's conversation. I would love to say it's this. There is a book that did change my life, and that's Fearless Living, which goes back. So Fearless Living by Rhonda Britton is a book that changed my life that I encourage everyone to read, because the less fear that we have in our life, the more we are willing to evolve, change, and be curious. So that would definitely be one. But I do believe that we've in many ways lost the art of conversation. So for me, the thing that I would encourage listeners and the big takeaway is to engage in conversation.
I love it. Andy, you've got 20 different places where we can find you. We just flip on the TV, we go to the radio, but where can we connect with you? Where can we find your products, services, all the above?
Well, it's easiest to go to andypaige.com, and that's Andy, like a boy. Andy Paige, PAIGE.com. Of course, you can go to thegirlygogarter.com. Shop Home and Heart is actually the General Hospital website. That's where I am, pitching things within General Hospital, and then you can also see me on QVC.
That's incredible. Again, thank you so much for the time. We're genuinely thankful. Incredible conversation. Anthony, what do we have coming up?
So coming up, we actually in an hour we're talking to Morgan Anderson. We have a double header today, Chris. And we're completely switching gears and talking about tax planning and compliance, which is
that's going to be almost as exciting as curiosity.
I'm just so excited to talk about tax planning and compliance. So looking forward to that with Morgan in an hour. Also, remember to follow us on, just go to howtofounder.com, where you can follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those things. Andy, thank you so much for a great conversation.
Thank you for bearing with our lack of technical acumen.
I'm glad we did it. It's been an honor. I'm really, really impressed with everything that you do, and I'm grateful for this subject matter, and I hope that we inspire a few people, and I hope you have a beautiful holiday as well.
Oh, you too, Andy. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.